friends, myself Professor Abul Balaji from Department of Computer Science, CMCS, Yoga. In today's session of database management system, we are just going to discuss about some of the important concepts of database management system, that is the process of data abstraction and data integration. The key points that we are supposed to discuss in today's lecture are: first one is the process of data abstraction. Then after we will just view or see the three different levels of abstraction, that is the physical level, logical level and view level. Then after we will discuss about the process of data integration. Within that we will see the three-level architecture for database system. Then after how the mapping will be provided in between the fields, and then after finally we will conclude our discussion with the process of data independence. Within that we will just discuss about logical data independence and physical data independence. So friends, let's begin our discussion of data abstraction and data integration. So dear friends, as we know that every users of the database management system are just interested in storage, retrieval and manipulation of the data. These are the basic functionalities that has been provided by database management system to the users, so that every user can store the data in the system. Every user will just access the data as per their requirement, and every user will be able to modify the data that has been stored within the database. So, whenever the users are supposed to perform these three basic functions or the operations against the database, definitely they are not concerned with how the data will be actually stored, how it will be actually retrieved, and how it will be actually modified. Being the users, you are just simply interested in retrieval of the data as per your demand, manipulation of the data as per your demand, and the storage of data as per your demand. But how it will be done, these are not the concern activity of the users. And basically, the system or the database management system just hides such types of internal details from the users, and it only allows the users for the storage, retrieval, and manipulation. But how it will be stored, how it will be manipulated, and how it will be accessed, these internal details have been masked or hidden out from the users, and this simply is called as data abstraction. So, whenever we are trying to define the process of data abstraction, simply the process of data abstraction is the process of hiding unwanted details from the users, while providing the details that are useful to them can be called as data abstraction. Means, whatever the kinds of internal things that has been implicitly done by the system, these all internal things have been masked, hidden out from the users, and they are just allowed to perform their own operations as per their wish, as per their demand, and this is basically called as data abstraction. For example, if just we go to the engineer's office or the architecture's office, you will see the models of the buildings or the infrastructures that have been designed and developed by that particular engineer. Now friends, if you just view or see that particular model of the building or the infrastructure, you will have the basic idea about that model or about that building. Likewise, that building is three-story building. Again, that particular building has such kind of front view. That particular building does have such kind of back view. Means you are just having the basic details about that infrastructure, but all the internal details, like what type of cement has been used to just build that building, what kind of just dimensions of that particular walls or that particular building, then after what is the dimensions of the windows or the doors of that particular building, such kind of internal details or the detailed structure of that building has been hidden out from the users. Means you are just having the basic idea, but the internal details like the cement use, the dimension of windows, the dimension of walls, the dimension of doors, the depth of the building, all these internal details has been masked out from the users, and simply this is called as data abstraction. Now, in the database management system, if you are just interested in achieving the process of data abstraction, the DBMS provides the variety of models, and by having or by depicting such types of model, each of the data elements has been just abstracted in different types of the levels of abstraction. So, the major purpose of the database system is to provide the user with the abstract view of the data. Means the system will just provide the required data portions along with the operations, but all the internal details will be hidden out from the users. Means the details or the certain details of the data will be hide or hidden from the user. This is called as data abstraction. So whenever the data abstraction is supposed to be achieved, we can say that the data in the database is stored in the complex data structure so that the system must retrieve the data effectively. So as the database system, users are not computer trained, means you are not concerned with the operational working of your computers or your system, but you are concerned with your own requirement. In the same way, in order to provide the simple view to the users, the developers hide the complexity from the user through the several levels of the abstraction so that the users can interact with the system more easily, more conveniently without having any kind of problem. So for achieving this, again as I have said earlier, a data model is used to hide the storage details and prevent with the conceptual view of the data to the users. Now, definitely, the process of data abstraction supports the variety of views of the data to the users, and each user may see the different views of the database which describes only the data of their own interest. Means, for example, suppose we are having the hierarchy in the organization, there is the top, middle and lower. So such types of hierarchy or the system hierarchy is there in the organization. Definitely, with the help of data models, the data that has been provided to the top level, it is not mandatory, will be provided to the middle, and again it will not be provided to the lower as well. Means depending on the interest of the users, the model will map or hide the data from each levels of the hierarchy of the system. So these are the basic things as far as the data abstraction is concerned. In the database management system, the process of data abstraction can be divided into three different levels of abstractions. That is the physical level, second one is the logical level, and then after there is the view level. So as far as the physical level is concerned, it generally describes the complex low-level data structures in the details. Means the physical level also describe how the data will be actually stored, how the data will be actually manipulated, and how the data will be actually retrieved. Means if this is the thing or these are the requirements of the physical level, you can say that the physical level is directly interacting with your operating system because it is just mounted with the help of this operating system so that the secondary storage devices can be utilized for the storage, retrieval and manipulation of the data. So all these methods means how the data will be stored, how it will be retrieved and how it will be manipulated. These details are maintained with the help of this physical level of data abstraction. Now the next one, that is the logical level. So it is the next level of data abstraction. Basically, when we are dealing with the logical level, generally it describes the total number of entities used then after their respective attributes, then after the association or the mapping, that is the relationship that can exist among one or more entity, and the integrity constraints that have been imposed on the attributes of the entity or the entity set. In general, we can say that the logical level of the database abstraction concerned with the structure of the database or the database object. Again, point to be noted, dear friends, the logical level of the database abstraction is concerned with the structure, means entity, attributes, relationship and integrity constraints. All these constitute to the structure of the database object or the database. And that's why we can say that it is the next higher level. Again, it describes what relation exists among the data. Logical level describes the entire database in terms of smaller number of relatively simpler structure. And again, by using logical level, DBA decides what information is to be stored in the database. Okay, and that's why the identification of entity, attribute, relationship, and the integrity constraint is important while defining the structure of the database. So this is the second level of the database abstraction, that is the logical level. And then after the next one, that is the view level. So when we are dealing with this view level, this is the level which is provided to the users, and that's why sometimes it is also called as the user level as well. Basically, this view level or the user level, it is at the topmost level of the database abstraction hierarchy, and that's why we are saying that it is the highest level of the data abstraction. Generally, it describes the only part or the portion of the entire database that the users are concerned. Means from the entire database, only that particular portion is provided to the users that they have demanded. Again, it is used or it is using the simpler structure as many as the users of database system do not need all the information. Means only the certain portions from the entire database is used or needed by the users, and that's why it uses, means the view level uses the simpler structure. Again, the view level also provide the security mechanism to prevent users from accessing the certain part of the database. Okay, so this is the important functionality of the view level or the user level. Now, you can summarize these three levels with the help of pictorial format like this. So, we are having these three levels of database abstraction. At the topmost, we are having the view level or the user level. At the middle, we are having the logical level, and at the lowest, we are having the physical level. Dear friends, point to be noted is that the physical level is directly interacting with the operating system because it is mounted on the secondary storage devices. Okay, again the physical level defines the methods of storage, retrieval and manipulation of the data in the database. Second, or the middle one, is the logical level. It describes the structure, means the total number of entities along with attributes, along with the relationship, along with the integrity constraint used, and that's why it is just directly related to the structure. And at the top we are having the view level or user level, which is concerned with only the required portion from the entire database to the users. Now you can see we are having the different types of views: view A, view B, view C. These are the application programs or the users demand that are executing concurrently against your consistent state of the database. So all the levels of the database abstraction can be summarized with the help of this simple diagram like this. Now in more detail we can have the structure like this. You can see at the top we are having the logical view, that is the user's requirement. Then after, at the middle we are having the conceptual view, that is the structure definition, and at the lowest we are having the internal or the physical view or the level, again which describe the methods of storage, retrieval and manipulation. Now you can see on your screen like this. Okay, so this is the simple explanation of the process of data abstraction. Now, the next one, that is data integration. Dear friends, as the name suggests, integration means combination or the sharing of the data. Now, as we have seen in the data abstraction, we are trying to execute the several application concurrently against the database. Means all the required data portion from the several application again can be combined or integrated with each other, and collectively it will be stored in the database. So as per the advantage of the database management system, this DBMS allow the sharing of data, means the data of the several users or the data of the several application programs can be integrated or combined together with the help of centralized control of the database management system. And that's why we can say that this DBMS just manages to maintain or share the data from the variety of application, and as per the requirements of the user it will be provided to them again as per the views or the interest of the users. So as far as this data integration is concerned, we are familiar that each program needs the data relevant to its task or relevant to its work. Again, if it is so, it is useful for the programs to use some portion of the data that can be used by the other program, that is sharing of the data. Means if this similar kind of data is required multiple times, then we can share or combine such types of data, and that will be shared or provided to the several users when it is required or when there is the necessity. Now the simplest method for sharing of the data is by duplicating it. But if we are trying to duplicate the data, definitely redundancy creates the bottleneck or the problems. Means unnecessarily you are wasting your storage space, unnecessarily you are increasing your data retrieval time, and unnecessarily you are just increasing the modification time. Means although the duplication of the data can be a simple thing or the simple way for the sharing of the data, but the duplication or the redundancy of the data does have its own disadvantages. So, in order to eliminate such types of problems, this DBMS solves this problem by centralizing the storage and the management of the data. DBMS has access to the metadata, that is the data about the data. Again, relieving the users from its maintenance. Means, as I have said earlier, users are concerned with their own activities. They are not concerned with the internal details, and that's why all the maintenance of the data will be hidden out or masked out from the users. Means it will be the responsibility of the database management system, not of the users. Again, the DBMS provides the application program or the users require data in the form they want, with database performing the appropriate translation of the actual data. Means what you want, you just demand it to the database or the database management system, and it will be the responsibility of the database management system to provide the same to you as per your requirement. Now, when we are just trying to integrate the data, you can have the figure like this. We are having such kind of variety of applications or the application program. Now, the centralized control of the database management system will integrate all the data in the database. Now you can have such kind of application, that is application 1, application 2, and so on. And all this application data will be combined with the help of centralized database control with the help of this database management system. So these are the basic things as far as the data integration is concerned. Now friends, we will discuss about the three-level architecture proposal of database management system. This three-level architecture proposal of the database management system has been suggested by ANSI SPARC. Now, this ANSI SPARC stands for American National Standard Institute Standard Planning and Resource Committee, has described the generalized architecture of the database system. The architecture of the database is divided into three different levels of the abstraction. First one is the external level or the view level or the user level. Second one is the conceptual level or the logical level or the global level, and finally there is the internal level or the physical level. Now the view at each level is described with the help of schema. Means we are having three levels and each of these three levels is described with the help of schema. Again, a schema is a plan or a guideline that describes the records and the relationship that can exist in the variety of views. Again, schema also describes the way in which entities at the one level of the abstraction can be mapped to the another or the lower level of the data abstraction. So these are the things that can be done with the help of with the help of the schema, that is the guideline or the plan about how the view at one level will interact with the view at the another level. Now we can have the three-level architecture like this. You can see at the top we are having the external view or external level. At the middle we are having the conceptual view or the logical level, and at the lowest or at the bottom we are having the internal view or the physical view. Again, as I have said earlier, each view has been defined with the help of schema. Again, it is the plan or the guideline how the data will be mapped from the one level of abstraction to the another level of data abstraction. So if you observe this figure, you can see the difference. Now, the data in between the external view and the conceptual view is mapped with the help of mapping that has been provided with the help of database management system. And conversely, the data in between the conceptual view and the internal view is mapped with the help of mapping that is jointly provided with the help of database management system and the operating system. So this is the figure for three-level architecture of database management system. Now, first one, that is the external or user view. We are already having the idea about the three levels of abstraction. Now, briefly, we'll discuss about it. First one is the external or user view. Again, it is at the highest level of database abstraction. Again, each external view is defined with the help of scheme called external schema. Again, external schema provides only the part of the data from the entire database that the users requires and hides the rest of the part of the database from the users. Again, the external schema also provides the methods about how the data from the lower level of abstraction will be extracted to the higher level of database abstraction. So these are the simple things as far as the external or the user view is concerned. Now the next one, that is the conceptual or global view. So this conceptual view is defined with the help of again conceptual schema. One conceptual view contains entire database. It contains the database entities along with their respective attributes, again along with the relationships that can exist amongst the entities and the integrity constraints that can be imposed on these entities. There is only one conceptual schema per database. Means if you are having the conceptual data, you are having the database, there is only one conceptual view for the entire database. Thus, we can say that the conceptual schema deals with all the entities, their attributes, their relationships and the constraints on data. It also just contains the semantic information about data. It also contains the security information and checks to retain the data consistency and integrity. Means the conceptual view also tries to maintain the data consistency, security and the integrity of the data as well. So this is the conceptual or global view. And finally we are having the internal or physical view. Again, this is at the lowest level of database abstraction. It directly interacts with your operating system. Now, the internal view is defined with the help of internal schema and contains the definition of stored records. It describes the complete details of the data storage, retrieval and manipulation. Thus, the internal level is concerned with the basic activities like the storage space allocation for data and storage. Again, the record description for storage with storage size for data items. Then after record placement, and finally we can say that data compression and data encryption techniques are also defined with the help of this internal or physical view. So these are the three different views or the levels of abstraction that has been suggested in three levels of database abstraction or the database system proposal suggested by ANSI SPARC. Now, whenever we are just trying to just extract the data from one level of abstraction to the another, there is the mapping which is provided in between the views. Again, a view can be used to limit the portion of the database that is known and accessible to a given application. A mapping between the external and conceptual view gives the correspondence amongst the record and the relationships of the external and conceptual view. Changing the storage structure of the record involves the changing the conceptual view to the internal view mapping. So, we can say that the conceptual view does not require any alteration. So, these are the things about the mapping between the views. Then after, our last portion of our today's discussion is data independence. Now, dear friends, the three-level abstraction along with the mapping from the internal to the conceptual and from conceptual to the internal level provides us two different types of data independence. First one is the logical data independence and second one is the physical data independence. So, as far as the logical data independence is concerned, meaning that if you change the structure of the database and the database objects, still the user's operation should not be get affected. Means, for example, if you are having the entity employee with two attributes, that is the employee number and name, and suppose after some time or after some period you just inserted or added new attribute, that is address, in that employee entity, still due to these changes user's operation should not be get affected. This is basically called as logical data independence. And secondly, the physical data independence, meaning that if there are changes in the location of the secondary storage physical devices, still the user's operation should not be get affected. So you can have the clear and concise difference in between the logical and physical data independence. That is, the logical data independence is concerned with the structure of the database and the physical data independence is concerned with the storage devices or the secondary physical storage devices. So these are the logical and physical data independence. So dear friends, I hope you might have just understood the things or the concept that we have explained today. So thank you.